These guys are ridiculous. These guys are ridiculous.
Now, how about them damn Celtics?
We are back with another episode of How About Them Celtics. Sam and I are here recording on Monday, May 1st after the Celtics loss in Game 1. I am whispering because my microphone decided not to work post-game, and I am still at TD Garden. As if the day couldn't get any worse, technology decided that it didn't want to work today. My microphone cable isn't working, my microphone isn't working, my AirPods didn't connect, so I had to restart my computer, which decided it wanted to update for 5 minutes. So, not a great night. This has not been a good one. And the Celtics decided to lose, so not good.
No, not good at all. Internet's already taking the piss, taking a break.
Nice.
During the game, it needed a break, was buffering the whole time.
Amazing.
Celtics, still bad. Celtics are fake.
Mhm.
The Celtics are fake. It's official. They're fake.
I agree with you.
Philadelphia, game 1, they can't show up. It's a lot to ask for them to try and be focused for 4 quarters. They come out in the first half. They make every shot. Halftime buzzer goes off. They're up 3. Red flag. Why are they only up 3? They can't get a stop, and they can't take care of the basketball. You know what are 2 things you need to do when it's a close game down the stretch? Get stops, take care of the basketball. They did neither. And can you believe it? They lost. They let fat James Harden score 45 points. They let fat James Harden hit the game winner. They let fat James Harden show up dressed like the fucking Cookie Monster and kill them. There was no answer for him. Joe Mazzulla is still throwing Horford out there for the Wolves on defense. They're making no adjustments. They watched Trae Young do it to him. Now they're watching Harden do it to him. They have no solution. I don't know why they haven't tried to put Tatum at center. Tatum was actually good today. Can you believe it? Tatum actually decides he wants to make threes and he only takes 5. Isn't that funny?
Well,
Tatum was
excellent.
He had 1 turnover, 5 assists, 11 rebounds, 39 points. Jaylen Brown came out hot and then just didn't shoot anymore. He only had 10 shots. Where the hell did all the shots go?
Jaylen Brown was bad. I don't know. Like, he came out hot, but he was horrendous for the rest of the game. Jaylen Brown decided that he wanted to be the guy on a night where Tatum was clearly the guy, and he decided to drive into the paint a million times and cough up the ball every time because he jumped before he passed the ball. He continuously drove into the lane without having a plan and then gave the ball to the 76ers. It's something I wrote about earlier in the season when I got yelled at for being a hater, and it's exactly what happened tonight. He was not good. He was bad. You know who else was bad? The Celtics. they weren't very good. They couldn't get stops, and you don't have to say it, and just don't cut me off while I say it. James Harden was incredible. As much as the Celtics couldn't contain him, he was amazing. Like, he had a good game. You give him credit where it's due, whatever.
You know what the best is? He sucked all first round, and now he wants to be good. He made 9 2-pointers the whole first round against the Nets. He made 10 today.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating, but the thing they talked about a lot post-game was Joe Mazzulla. Like, they asked him, like, why didn't you double him? Why didn't you do this? And Joe Mazzulla was like, we doubled him for, like, 3 possessions in the second quarter, and they scored on every single one because
doubling him's wrong.
Agree.
I don't know why everyone on Twitter wants him to be doubled.
I agree, but then when they don't double him, then he's just, like, picking apart Al Horford, or he's getting past Jaylen Brown too easy, or I don't like the drop. The drop needs to go. They need to, the pickup points need to be.
The drop needed to go in game 3 against Atlanta.
No, disagree. This is my point. The drop makes sense against Atlanta to a degree because Trae Young is looking for the lob. I forgot to tweet this. I think Keith Smith might have said it, or somebody might have tweeted it, because Trae Young is looking for the lob to Clint Capella. So dropping back makes sense because you have to take away that shot. You have to take away Trae Young, and you live with the difference. Who are they looking for the lob for? They're not looking for the lob for anybody. They're just giving up free buckets. Robert Williams isn't even, like, trying to contest Tyrese Maxey on the floater. James Harden is getting whatever he wants in the lane. And, give him credit. Once you let him get hot, he's going to nail all these step-back ridiculous shots when you're contesting well. So it was just bad defense. And, I mean, as much as the defense was bad, and I think that was a problem, personally, the turnovers were worse for me. I think that was the worst part of this game for the Celtics. As much as I disliked how they played defense and their effort and whatever you want to say, 16 turnovers in game 1 against a Joel Embiid team looking for a reason to fight. Or, excuse me, a Joel Embiid-less 76ers team. You're going to lose the game. You're not going to win turning the ball over 16 times.
Yeah. It's just another day, another team that you gave confidence to. It is. It's so annoying. This is the playoffs, and you clearly don't care about winning a title. The team's fake.
Yep.
I feel bad. I've said the Nuggets are fake many a time. You know what? At least they care.
Fake.
The Celtics are fake. They don't care. They don't care. Derek White, 1 of 5. It's like he wasn't even out there. And it's unfair to really crap on Derek White because he's been pretty solid throughout the playoffs, but you got nothing from him. And this isn't a game where you're blaming the offense per se. You shot 58% from the field. You got a lot of good looks. You lost the game because you couldn't take care of the ball and you couldn't stop anybody. There was no doubt in my mind when the Celtics went up 1 off the Tatum free throws that they were going to give up a basket. Yeah. You know why? It's because they made no adjustments on the defensive end to do anything to prevent that. When Tatum was at the line, Doc subs in George Niang. They just leave Horford out there. They're like, yeah, all right. Why bother? Get him out. Put Tatum at the 5. Tatum had 11 rebounds tonight. He had more rebounds than the entire bench combined, Rob included, who played 20 minutes. He had the most rebounds on the team. He can do it. If you're relying on Horford to get stops one-on-one, it's not happening anymore. They can't do it. I love Horford, and when Embiid comes back, if he ever comes back, who knows what's going on with that? He's going to be important. He's going to be important in slowing down the big guy. He is. He always has been. And it doesn't mean he still can't do that. But what he's really struggling to do is hold his own against these faster guys. And Harden's not even fast. He's just got a tight handle and a quick first step. You're not able to stop these guys, and they're just watching it happen. The drop needs to go. The drops needed to go. I don't care if Trae Young was looking for a lob, wasn't looking for a lob. He killed you in 2 games because he was throwing up floaters and doing exactly what Tyrese Maxey's going to do, exactly what Harden's doing, and you have no answer for it. Figure it out, Joe Mazzulla.
Let me ask you this: what do you want them to do? Switch? Because the switch didn't work.
Switch? Play lineups where you can switch.
Switch didn't. Okay.
Play lineups where you can switch.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, sure. I'll buy it. Yeah.
Do something. It's been 7 playoff games now. You're 4-3. Not good. You lost to a Philly team. You should have won this game by 20 points. You got the offensive performance you needed. I actually trusted that you could get a bucket. This is the playoffs. I need to be able to trust that you can get a stop. They haven't been able to get a stop the whole playoffs. This is not championship basketball. The Brooklyn Nets, the skeleton crew, held this team to under 100 points. How do you expect to beat anybody that's good? This Sixers team without Embiid is not good. Harden had a tremendous game. You know why? Because you let him get comfortable. It's just inexcusable stuff. And I'm sick of these stupid, empty quotes from the press conferences. We have to be better. Prove it. Play better. Play engaged. Play focused. How many times do you have to lose games in embarrassing fashion to wake up? You lose back-to-back games to Orlando in December. You blow 3 straight leads to kick off March, and you don't learn your lesson. Now you're screwing around in the playoffs, losing to teams that you shouldn't be losing to, giving role players confidence that you shouldn't give hope. You should have came out and stomped these guys and made them think, wow, we really do need Embiid to compete. Instead, they're like, we're going to come back in here and get game 2 because these guys are a bunch of frauds. They're turning the ball over late in the game. The clock goes under 4 minutes, and they're lost. Is that on Mazzulla? Is it on the players? It's probably on everybody. There was a possession when it was, I want to say 2.5, 3 to play. It was a Tatum stand there and dribble. And that's when I knew. I said, they're back to this. Very rarely is that something I noticed during the game. I'm just like, okay, they're slowing it down. I believe that was a point where Marcus Smart was carrying them. He didn't even touch the ball. People are going to blame him because that last play, and I don't really know what to think of it. He was great. He was initiating. He was going inside.
I don't think it was his fault.
He was the only one that was playing with half a brain down the stretch. He was the only one being aggressive. The rest of these guys are going in there hoping for foul calls in a game where there was none. What do you expect? You have to win these games. This is the playoffs. Nobody's going to hold your hand. The red carpet has been rolled out for you as much as it possibly can be, and you don't want to walk on it.
For what it's worth, I don't think the last play was all Marcus's fault. Tatum talked about it after the game. He goes, I thought he was going to shoot it, and he was looking to pass it, and I think he just passed it a little too late, and so they got confused. Not an excuse. I'm just like saying I don't necessarily think it was Marcus's fault. You heard Al Horford after the game talk about, when we saw Embiid was out, we kind of had a lack of energy, and we like he basically admitted what everyone knows happened. Like they saw Embiid was out, and they were like, "Oh, yep, okay, let's waltz through this game and not really care." and that's what happened. And Joe Mazzulla took a ton of blame after the game. He was saying, "I have to be better. I have to call plays better. I have to make the decisions better." And I respect him for saying that. And meanwhile, like at that point, what do you expect him to say? But I mean, like you said, show it. Like you've been doing this all season. Like what's happening?
I don't care anymore. These post-game quotes are empty, fake bullshit.
For what it's worth, like as much as Joe Mazzulla like took blame and like good for him, like it was partially his fault. Yes, this isn't a Mazzulla problem because we've been seeing it through 3 different head coaches. Right, and you could say, "Well, Ime Udoka had the team."
Well,
look at the first half of that. Look at the first half of last season.
Look at the second half.
They felt, and look at them blowing games to the Heat in the playoffs and barely scraping by. Look at them losing in the finals and losing those games, and look at them blowing a lead against Milwaukee in game. Like, let's not act like act like it didn't happen because like 3 weeks from now, if the Celtics manage to come back in the series and put some fight together for a few games, right, then we're just going to be talking about this finals like we were talking about last year. But since they made it to the finals last year, no one talks about the games that they messed up. But they did. It happened last year. Like I
still talk about Game 6 to this day. Don't say no one. I hold them accountable.
My point is, this is not like a Joe Mazzulla new issue. So like if you want to blame Joe Mazzulla, sure, place some of the blame on him. But this is not a new problem that's come about when he's been the head coach. It's just not. It's the players, and they need to figure it out. It's a mentality thing. And as much as I give people crap for saying like, oh, they're not mentally tough enough, this like because I think that's a dumb.
They're literally not. They're not.
Yeah,
they can't play in the clutch.
They can't. Never mind the clutch. They can't play in general. And you mentioned something about the offense, saying they had the offensive performance. They did, but then they stopped. And that's the problem, right? And you heard Joe Mazzulla after the game, and I know you tweeted about it, say, we only took 29 threes. That's not a recipe or 26 threes or whatever it was. That's not a recipe for success, and you mocked it. But as much as I'm
mocking it because that's not why they lost the game. It's not. They lost the game on the defensive end. They lost the game because they turned the ball over.
Sam,
the offense was fantastic. They got great looks the whole game.
Sam, I can't afford to yell over you right now, so I need you to let me talk.
I don't care about math. I don't. Please. They didn't lose this game because of math. They didn't.
Are you going to let me? I like I said, I can't afford to yell over you, so you're going to have to let me talk, or I'm going to just like not talk.
It's a stupid argument.
Sam, you're
going to talk. It's stupid. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I understand it's not the story of the game, right? Like it's not going to be the thing that like people are talking about, and rightfully so, right? Like because the defense was bad, the effort was bad, the turnovers were bad. Like obviously that's going to be a story because it deserves to be. But what Joe Mazzulla said about the threes, indirectly or in like not in the best way put, like reflects why those issues were as bad as they were. Like they took how many threes did they take? 26 or 29? You know, off the top of your head, I don't know if you have the box score up.
What is it?
I think how many threes did they take? Was it 23, 26 or 29?
26.
I remember. Yeah, 26 threes. Okay. So that was the fewest they've taken all season. It was the only second time all year they've taken less than 30 threes in a game. And you can sit there and say, well, that's fine because they got to the hoop. And I understand they played an efficient offense still, so whatever. But the other time they took fewer than 30 threes was against the Nets when they blew a 28-point lead because they played really well in the first half and then decided to completely change the way they played offense in the second half, right? So it's similar in the sense that rather than continue playing the style of offense that has worked for them all season, they decided to do what they did in Game 5 against the Hawks and completely slow the game down. And they just play completely differently when they have a lead. And even when it's a tiny lead, like the little baby lead they had against the Sixers, they try to milk the clock. Like they were up by 4 with like 3 minutes left, and they were like, let's milk the clock. We won't take a shot till 5 seconds left. And it was the possession you talked about. It was when Tatum just decided to start dribbling at the top of the key, right? And they didn't run an offense. They're just like, okay, let's dribble. And it leads to possessions like the Malcolm Brogdon turnover, where they're just scrambling with like 5 seconds left on the clock, and then Malcolm Brogdon throws it to Tyrese Maxey, right? So they completely changed the way they play offense, and I think that issue is reflected in the number of threes they take. It's not about just chuck up a bunch of threes. It's about you get the number of threes that they're taking, like the 35, the 40, the 50 sometimes threes, when you're playing the style of offense that works best for them. And when you're not playing that offense, it leads to turnovers. And when it leads to turnovers, it leads to deflation. And when it leads to deflation, I was talking to Bobby Kravitsky, who writes for Sports Illustrated. This Celtics team, the way he phrased it was like they're emotional in the sense that they let those issues translate to the other end of the floor. And that's where the problem lies, right? The way Bobby phrased it, like the Heat are like so killer because they'll just go one possession, they'll fail, and then the next possession, it's like a new possession. This Celtics team, it's last possession sucked, so this possession's going to suck. So this one's going to suck too, right? Like they just let it draw on. And so when they slow down the offense, it leads to no success because it's not the style that works for them. It leads to them taking the fewest threes they've taken all season, which again, not exactly the problem, but like reflects the issue that happened on the offensive end. And when they play that slow, their defense sucks too because they let it bleed into that. And so when they're not playing with this pace, when they're not playing fast, when they're not playing up tempo, moving the ball, shooting those threes, because that's just a result of that offense, then they're not the Celtics team that was the second seed in the East. They're the Celtics team that started 500 last season. They're the Celtics team that went 7-6 out of the All-Star break, right? That's when you see the issues. And it's either their poor defense leads to them playing hero ball, or their chew clock offense leads to them playing sloppy defense. And when one bleeds into the other, it doesn't work. And tonight, guess what? You got both. And so it was just, it's bad. It's just
terrible. The difference between this year and last, defense. Even though they got to the finals last year and they kicked away as many games as you can count, they played defense. Last year in the playoffs, second amongst teams, 106.3 defensive rating. This year, amongst the teams that are left, only ahead of Phoenix, 116.3. Not playing a lot of defense.
Nope.
Why did Atlanta make it a series? Because you let him score, you let him get confident. Why did Philly beat you today? Gave them whatever they want. It's really that simple. All the other stuff is gravy. Turnovers, whatever. As much as turnovers are absolute backbreaker, if you can actually defend and not let them shoot, what'd they shoot? Like 50-something% today? 50%? 44 from three?
I think that was the biggest problem for me personally, right? Because I'm going to say offense again, but it's going to lead to defense. When is the last time you saw a team make 7 more threes than the Celtics? And as much as that is an issue of their offense slowing down and them not taking the right shots, which I do think that was a really big issue. Like I genuinely think that was like probably the third worst thing in this game, which is saying something because there were a lot of bad things. But your inconsistency and your inability to find something that worked against James Harden led to a bad double team that leads to a D'Anthony Melton 3, or leads to, you sending too much pressure, focusing on him, that leads to a Tyrese Maxey 3, right? Like they let these Sixers players without Embiid feel way too comfortable, as Jason Tatum put it. And because of that, they just did whatever they wanted all night, and they got in that rhythm. And then after that, you can't do anything.
Yeah. I've seen enough of this crap. I'm just so sick of every time they lose going on Twitter and seeing them say the same things that are just meaningless. Because you can say you didn't focus enough, you can say you didn't play defense enough, you can say you took them lightly. Until you actually change something about it, it means nothing at this point.
Well, let me ask you this, and I agree with you. I'm not like challenging you. I'm just like sparking like maybe another rant here. What do you want them to say? right? Like, and I know your response is you don't want them to say anything, you want them to do it. But like,
yeah, you shouldn't be in the position where they're like,
okay,
hey, you guys lost to a team without Embiid tonight that you were favored by 10 points to beat. Why didn't you fucking try? It's game one at home. I don't know how many. Somebody should say to them, how many times do you have to lose in humiliating fashion for it to click? That should be the first question in the press conference. Why can't you guys play when the game's close in the fourth quarter? Why not? And if one of them dared bring up the clutch record this year, clap right back. Those games were clutch because you guys suck enough to make them close. It's bad. This team is not playing winning basketball. It's not. They're not defending. They were really good in the first half. When they were getting blocks, they were getting out and running. To your point about the pace, they didn't do that. They stopped doing that. And Joe needs to make adjustments. You literally saw Doc Rivers, who gets crap all the time, adjust mid-game and make a difference.
Yeah. It's just like I part of me is like unsure of what to say anymore. Like defense bad, turnovers bad, offense bad. It's the same problems. And so when we're having to talk about the same problems over again, the only difference is which player on the other team killed you. And tonight it was James Harden, who, again, I'll say it again, credit him. Like he played really good, and in not all of the shots he made were like these open shots because the Celtics failed. Like he made some tough looks, including the one at the end of the game. Like as much as you want to blame Al Horford, like he played okay defense on that. Like James Harden just nailed a tough shot. But when you're inconsistent and unable to find a way to slow a player down, especially as good as James Harden, you can talk about, fat James Harden, blah, blah, blah. Like at his core, like he might not be as quick, he might not be as whatever, but he's still James Harden, right? Like he can still do stuff like this. And when a team lets him, and that's the key, like the Celtics let him get in a rhythm, they let him get hot, and they let him dictate the game, which is especially unacceptable on a night where Jason Tatum was ridiculous in the first half, in the second half, right?
Jason Tatum was actually good.
Wasted it.
Jason Tatum scored 20 points in the second quarter, and you lost the quarter. You lost a quarter where your best player had it going, and he was reliable. For what it felt like the first time on playoffs, you could trust him, and you wasted it against a beatless Sixers? What is going on? What is it going to take? Keith Smith tweeted it. He keeps saying he's waiting for them to change. They're not going to change. This is what you get. Is it enough to get them a title? No, it's not. They're not going to get it. If they keep doing this, which it seems like they're going to, there's no indication that they plan on changing. They can keep getting humiliated time after time, and it doesn't matter. There's no way to get them to focus for 48 minutes. Maybe you'll get a super cool game 2 at home, which essentially is a must-win now. So if you don't win, it's a disappointment. Yeah. Congrats, I guess. Cool to hang a banner because you won game 2. Not that I don't think they can win on the road because they've actually been good on the road. Better than at home. At home, they're just like, come right in, we'll make you dinner. It's terrible. We can't believe in this team as fans. We can't have any kind of faith in them. It's sad. I have to bet against them to make myself feel okay because you can't rely on them to have a lead. You can't rely on them to win a close game.
Did you have insurance tonight?
No, they never got anywhere where you could get insurance. They were so hot in the first half that no one believed in them, including me, because as soon as things didn't go I texted you. I was like, there's going to be a stretch where everything doesn't go their way and they're going to melt. You saw it in the third quarter. You saw it down the stretch. Mm-hmm. They were up 5. They had Marcus Smart carrying them, and they melted. That stupid possession where all of a sudden nobody wants to shoot.
Yeah,
really?
Even in the fourth quarter, like you said, just there, like the last 3 minutes of the fourth quarter, they just decided, like, we're going to completely change the way we're playing basketball. We're going to play, fast up tempo, get decent shots for most of the game. Obviously, the defense was a problem, but then in the fourth quarter, even the offense collapsed, right? Like, they couldn't get a bucket. They couldn't do anything, like, right? And I will say, as much as Joe was a problem, like, he designed some decent ATO plays, and the Celtics just turned it over on, out of every timeout.
Turned it over to start the half. Turned it over after the first time out of the third quarter, after they melted already.
Crazy.
They didn't stop the bleeding.
No.
I don't know how 5 guys are on the floor in the fourth quarter. The only starter that didn't play well was Derek White, so they put Brogdon in.
Yeah.
And then they're like, hey, none of us want to shoot. We're all shooting over 50% today. Nope, we don't want to shoot. And then they throw it right to Maxey, who just has a wide that any other situation is a shot clock violation. But I'm not going to blame the officials because the Celtics literally played
It
like
wasn't
us.
a shot clock violation. Do you want to know why? Because Brogdon threw it so fast at Maxey that he had possession as it was going off. So they just let him run.
They decide that one by ear every time. Because there are times it goes off and they get possession. They don't care. They'll blow the whistle, stop the fast break.
Still.
Not there.
Still.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They don't deserve any break today. They didn't earn it. They didn't earn it. If you shoot 58% in a game, you shouldn't lose. At home, you shouldn't lose. They should be embarrassed. We're all embarrassed. Do they have consequences? These guys shouldn't get guaranteed money unless they win a title. Maybe then they'd try. Because they sure as hell aren't trying. Who's that?
Jay King just slipped me off, but I appreciate it.
Oh.
I mean, I think the emotion is fair after the game tonight. I think everybody should be doing that. Like, it's just, I share the emotion of Jay King's middle finger.
I agree.
Exactly what the Celtics deserve. I mean,
you guys all, as a media, should have collectively flipped them off. Every single one of them when they went to the podium. They deserve it.
For
losers.
For what it's worth, if I had to, and I'm not one for predictions, we don't do that. If I had to say something right now, I think the Celtics still win the series, but not because they win in close games. I think they end up finding some gear. They get hot. They do something well. They lock in on defense.
They were hot.
Where I know, but I think they get
literally
hot
were hot. They lost.
I think they still win in maybe like 5 or 6. I still think that, despite this, I know. But if you're Bobby's not happy with the team either.
But they shouldn't be. Whoever shouldn't be.
But
you guys should bring eggs.
It's just when you keep doing this, you're not, like you said, you're not going to win a title this way.
You're fake.
Be able to, yeah.
You're fake. The team is fake. Until they prove they're not fake, they're fake. They have all the characteristics of a fake team. Last year, they went to the finals and vomited on themselves. This year, they've embarrassed themselves time after time again. They refuse to learn from it. They're fake. They're letting a Philly team that they owned for, the past 5 or 6 years beat them without their best player?
Yeah.
What?
I got the double middle fingers from Jay on the way back. So it's just, yeah. Like I said earlier, it's hard to sit here and talk about a loss like this because it's the same problems you've seen for years. And again, it's not like you can blame Joe Mazzulla if you want because it's partly his fault, but it's just the players don't have the ability to, and I'm not saying everybody has to be Jimmy Butler, right? Like that's a level, but like, don't be this, right? Like you got to be better than this. There's got to be a middle ground you can find where you're not choking away a game like this, where you're not able to separate yourself from a team without the MVP that isn't that good. Straight like, and I said here, like they're better than the Hawks, but they're not good enough to do this at home, and like the defense wasn't there. And I said it again. I think the turnovers were maybe even worse, but the defense was horrendous. The offense, like that's, and as much as the defense was bad, like yes, and that's baffling. What baffles me the most is the way they, like, how are you going to do the same slow tempo, save time offense at the end of every game? And it never works.
They never learn. That's what I'm saying. They continuously get embarrassed and they don't change. They don't change. They don't learn. This is the same pod as after Game 5 versus Atlanta.
And you know what the only thing making me happy is that it might get a lot of views. It's the only thing.
Maybe it will. Maybe it will. But this is why losing games to Atlanta matters. Do you know why? Because other teams see that you're vulnerable. They saw Trae Young cook you because you don't know how to guard a pick and roll. You haven't decided what you want to do to try and stop that. So they're just going to keep abusing until you make up your mind. You cannot, unless he is making his threes at a efficient clip like he did in the regular season. What was he today, Horford? 1 of 4 from 3.
Mhm.
You cannot play him down the stretch if he's getting burned.
And
Put Tatum at center.
I
Put him
agree,
at center.
or just put Rob in there and tell him to pick up point higher, right? Like
Rob
as
wasn't
much
good
as
in the coverage either.
I
That's
know,
the
and
problem.
as much as they weren't good, I don't necessarily think it's their fault. I just don't think they're being put in a position to succeed. And again, that goes back to Missoula. Like, you got to make better decisions. And do I think a Horford lineup can work? Yeah, I think you can put Horford out there and it work. You just need to play it differently, and they're just not playing it the right way with the personnel they have out there. And a lot of people asked about it after the game. Like, I think Jared Weiss was asking about it. Like, everybody, he's like, throughout the years, you guys have done like a switch defense, like guard your yard, and yet you're doing like drop coverage, you're doing double teaming. And as much as it is like you try to figure out what works against Harden, like, just switch. Like, if you're switching the whole game, sure.
Switch and rotate.
Yeah, exactly.
Rotate the guy that gets beat.
Horford gets cooked on a couple possessions, but you're not giving up all these floaters to Maxey, all these floaters to Harden, these step back three. Like, just switch, and double, or not double, sorry, switch, and like you said, rotate and help. Like, bring over help. You can double without fully committing, right? If somebody's driving, have the strong side guy come over for a second, give some help, and then get back out to the corner. They did that against Trae Young a few times and it worked. Like, it's just the way they're guarding James Harden and the way they guarded the Sixers team was a complete state of disarray, right? They couldn't decide what to do. It was all over the place, and Sixers capitalized. And then on the other end, the Celtics got hot and then stopped playing the right brand of basketball and turned the ball over 16 times. This was as much as you can sit there, like, don't interrupt me while I say this, because this is something you get mad at. But like, you could sit there and say, "Oh, the Celtics played the worst they can. They lost by 2." We're over that. We're past that. We can't do that. That's not okay anymore, right? Like, if this was a November game, you're mad, but you get over it. It is May 1st. You lose games like this, you're out. You're done. See you later. That's just it.
And they didn't even play the worst they could play because they made shots. This might have been the best offense they played the whole playoffs. This is the most confident I was in a team that they would be able to score if they needed to score. I was just not confident they get a stop. And in the spring, the stops matter. The buckets matter too. But if I could pick one, I'd rather them get stops than be able to just score. Because you saw today, it doesn't matter. If you can't get stops, it does not matter. And I know you have a train to catch. This can be like where we can kind of wrap.
Yeah.
You talked about the players a couple minutes ago. If they lose in this kind of fashion in the playoffs, I'm not saying you have to break up the best guys. It might be time to think about a new identity for these guys, because I really don't know how much better of a team you can put together with the players you have, and you still can't get past the mental things.
And as much as
these
you
guys
say,
have
like,
all the talent in the world, but if they play like idiots, you're not going to win.
I agree. And as much as you say, like, maybe not the main guys, like, it starts with the main guys. Like, let's be real here. Like, and I think it's different things for each of them. Like, for Jason Tatum, it is a sort of contentness to just do whatever and like go with the flow, which is like fine in some scenarios, but not in this one. And with Jaylen Brown, it's the tendency to need to do it all himself and throw the ball away and like just be like the hero, right? Like, and those are two different issues, but they're two really bad issues when they both happen in the same game. Like, you can't live with it anymore. You just can't.
I'm sick of seeing these guys let us down as fans. It's ridiculous at this point. You should have won a title last year. And we all kind of let them off the hook because it was their first time, but they really should have won a title last year. They didn't. Now you are playing with fire. And I saw some post on Reddit after the game that was like they lost the first game of the second round last year. They didn't do it like this. They just got killed and they just didn't have it that day. They kind of had it today, and they lost a very winnable game because they're just idiots and they don't know how to handle a close game.
And like I said, I still think they win the series. I still think they bounce back. But if you're going to lose games like this, we're going to get far. We're going to, win series in 7 like they did last year, and then you're going to crumble when it matters because you're too tired and you do the same stuff. And
That's
the team
last year.
And a team will come along that knows how to exploit it. and that's what's going to happen.
Let's take like a quick glance back. We'll just do the last couple series, right? Miami, they get kind of blown out in game 1, I think in Miami was close, and then they kind of lost control, and it ended up being a double-digit loss.
Sure.
Game 2, they bounce back and blow out Miami. Then they come back to the Garden. They get blown out for 2.5 quarters. They come all the way back and then fail when the game gets close. Game 4, they blow them out and get a win. So in this series, you've lost one close game. One of the games that you lost wasn't close, even though it was, but then you've had the wheels come off. But it was earlier than clutch time. And you won the 2 blowouts. Game 5, you blow them out. 3 blowout wins, a blowout loss, and then a close loss. Game 6 is a close game. You can't execute the whole game, and then you shit the bed at the end. That's 2 close losses and 2 close games in the series. Game 7 is a blowout. You win wire to wire, but you do literally everything you possibly can to lose it when it gets close. And if Jimmy Butler doesn't hit the front of the rim, then we might not even have, as fans, the team that we have today because they might have had to blow it up then.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the finals. Game 1, you actually have to give them credit. They came from behind and they executed. They were unconscious from 3 in the fourth quarter, but they won a game and kind of blew them out when there was some competitiveness in the fourth quarter.
Sure.
Game 2, they get killed. Game 3, they blow them out. Game 4, they're up 5 in the fourth and melt. And it's never close again, and you just never compete again. You lose. You lost a championship because you can't win close games. Of those games I just listed, this is just the last 2 rounds. If you want to go back to Milwaukee, Game 5, we can throw that one in. You can go back to Milwaukee Game 3 and throw that one in.
Go to this year. This game, both of them.
The 2 losses to the Hawks, you couldn't execute down the stretch. Game 6, you do. Good for you. And today. Terrible record in playoff close games. Figure it out. If you want to win a title, if you want to be serious, if you don't want to be fake, you have to be able to win games that are intense. And I thought I had false hope in Game 6. I was like, wow, that was really impressive.
That's what I thought.
They strapped up and they locked in and they said, we're not messing around anymore. And maybe you get another fake win on Wednesday where they do that. And we're all like, oh, they're back. And then they'll melt again because they just don't learn. That's the story with this team. They do not learn.
I thought the same thing. After Game 6, I was like, okay, this is it. They've learned. They're ready to go. And then it just happened. But like I said, I really, like, even if I was home, I wouldn't even know what else to say right now. Like, even if I didn't have to leave to get a train, like, I'm at a loss. So
I think you said Keith said it, but there is nothing worse than being a fan of a team with expectations.
Yes.
Because this was an all-win situation. If they win today, they did what they were supposed to do. They beat them without Embiid. If they lose, this is what you have. The sky's falling. We're at 12 o'clock on the graphic.
There's little joy outside of a championship, which is great because you're playing for a great organization, and like having those expectations is great if you do it. But like, to be honest, it's probably more fun to be a Kings fan when you know what I'm saying? Like, as much as it is what it is. But anyways, we appreciate you guys listening. Subscribe to the channel, do all the good stuff, leave the ratings, blah, blah, blah. I'll let Sam wrap it up. I'm at a loss for words, and yeah. I'm usually the optimist. I've got nothing.
Thank you very much for listening or watching. Shout out to you if you actually cared about this team enough to listen to a podcast about them after they just punted away a game that they should have won. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're going to watch the sorry-ass Wednesday game. We'll be here 30 minutes before that. We'll be on the Facebook too, at How About Them Celtics on Facebook. Aside from that, the socials, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, at How About Them C's. Make sure, if you want to go to the game Wednesday and put yourself through some torture, HBTC at checkout on SeatGeek, $20 off your first purchase. Aside from that, if you want more from Jack, I'm sure I'll have something for Celtics blog in the morning. Maybe not. I hope you rip him to shreds. At JackSimoneNBA on Twitter, you're going to get everything from him. He'll live tweet the game for you and spoil it. And if you want more from me on Twitter, I'm complaining. Say I'm going to put my head in the microwave. Sam LaFrance NBA. That's it for us. Bye.
Taco, come on.
Taco's having some fun here.